I think it's the right time for me to do this interview because I feel like it was important to maybe let others know that it's okay. Let people know not to be ashamed, not to be afraid that people are going to look down on you. I erroneously thought things that weren't true, and I was mistakenly believing him. Everything he said to me, I believed. It isn't a reflection on us. Things go wrong with them, but that doesn't mean that it's in us. We're just happen to share some genes. But I think it's time. You see this look? You see this look? What a mean son of a bitch. Look at the face. Oh. This is the face of evil. That through whatever means I was not in his path of destruction. Right here, we're looking at a monster. Right here, you can see the evil in his black eyes. I could slay him with my words. You're a sorry piece of and I'm glad that you can't hurt anybody anymore. I just wish that you would have died before all of this mess happened to these poor people, because you're nothing but a monster. Today, I can tell you, this is we're high school sweethearts. They both grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and they married pretty young. When Jimmy came into the world, he was so small and so cute. I'm the older child, the older sibling, and I had such love in my heart for him. Jimmy was the baby of the family, and I doted on him. He was my little brother, and he was so cute. He did some things when he was little that were bad, but the trouble that he got into was in our family because of his shenanigans. It was a lot, all the time. My brother Ricky or I never did the things he did. I had no inkling of what was to come down the wire, I'll tell you that. No inkling at all. You think you know someone, you really don't. Even at a young age, he got in trouble outside the home. One incident happened where I noticed across the street, the hose was in the front door of the house. The neighbors weren't at home at the time, but he had put that hose in their house and turned it on. And the house was flooded from this hose. My mom just ran across the street, got the hose out of the house. The house would have been ruined if I hadn't have noticed. It would have been a lot worse damage. So she asked Jimmy did you do this? Did you put this hose in the people's house? And he said, yeah. I said, why would you do that? He said, I don't know. I don't know. He never explained why he did it. He just said, yeah, I did it, and he laughed. But he admitted that. It was like one of the few things he had ever admitted to. And he got in trouble for it, but it didn't faze him at all. I mean, at this point, my dad, he would laugh and shrug it off as, you didn't get me. You know, you didn't penetrate this facade. I was seeing a dark side emerge from him. His lack of emotion when he would get in trouble was something we all should have been a little concerned about. Jimmy never mentioned our mom once we were not with her anymore. Never cried a tear, and it didn't. That's really weird that he never cried once for our mom. I cried for her. Ricky cried for her. Jimmy just didn't seem to care. His lack of emotions through things that were very life-altering was quite telling, although we didn't know it at the time. Looking back, I realized that was a big flag that somebody should have picked up on, but nobody did. Jimmy's relationship with Stella was different from the very beginning. For some reason, he wouldn't give her the time of day. I don't recall them ever having a normal conversation, ever. I believe Jimmy hated Stella. Without a shadow of a doubt, he hated Stella. And that's all he had for her was anger, just anger. Well, Stella had a favorite lamp. And one day it was broken when I came out of the bedroom. She was just beside herself. She was so angry. I didn't do it. Ricky wasn't home at the time, so she started grilling him about it, and he just kept denying it. I didn't break the lamp. I didn't do it. That's what his response was. I don't know. I didn't do it. And he would say nothing else. I knew he did it. He never admitted to it. He would take stuff from her that she liked or cared about. You know, he would break things.
What happened?
The reason he did these things was as an entertainment for himself. He thought they were funny, wanted to get a rise out of, just a rise out of anyone, for anything. One day, Stella was out and about doing errands. When she came home, she was crying. She was very distraught. She was just hysterical. And as she drove by, one of the kids threw a brick at the front windshield of the car. Glass shattered all over Stella. If the brick hit her in the head, it would have killed her. It was horrible. She's telling us what happened. Jimmy was right there with us, and Jimmy laughed. We told him, this is not funny. This isn't funny at all. He says, yeah, I think it's pretty funny. He just laughed. It's good. She deserved it. She didn't deserve that. What is wrong with you? Looking back now, I think that was another sign that we all missed. Because when you have pleasure at someone else's pain, there's something wrong with you. This is a picture in his eye. That was gone. He's not the innocent little kid anymore. He's changing, all right. He's changing. In this photo, he was changing to where he was he wore a mask, I want to say. It's like he wore a mask. And everybody, thought he was a good, nice boy, which I think afforded him the luxury to do even worse things because nobody was suspecting him in his charming self. But what was starting to happen was that he would get in trouble for serious things. Jimmy always just acted like he could do whatever he wanted. Nobody's gonna say anything to him. I think at that time is when things started to change for him. And we just didn't know it. And then things just got worse as we went. One day, it was before I had to go to school, and my dad had told me that Jimmy was caught at the neighbor, an elderly neighbor of ours. Jimmy was in the process of trying to steal something from her house when she woke up and saw him in there. Alice Stock recognized him and said, "You're Jimmy Rohde. What are you doing in my house?" And Jimmy just fled. He fled. So the police came, and Jimmy denied it, as usual. Even though Alice Stock called the police on Jimmy, he didn't get arrested. We have her saying it did. He sidestepped the whole situation. We're all crazy. He didn't do it.
Dad just told me what happened.
Nothing happened.
Now, a right-minded person would know that Alice Stock knew us well. We had been living there for quite some time, so there was no mistake in my brother.
I wasn't there.
Seriously?
I don't know who it was, but it wasn't me.
I didn't know at the time, but he had a weapon. He had taken a knife into her house and went at her with the knife and threatened her. I was anticipating getting ready to do even worse things to people, and he's, at this point, he's escalating. It eventually broke my stepmom and my dad up. They ended up splitting because of Jimmy. And I know he knew it was because of him. I know he knew that. And I felt bad for her. She got thrust into this. She was an okay lady. She really was. She did the best she could with us. She just didn't know what did her. And no matter what she said, he would just not even give her the time of day. He'd stop answering her even and just sit there and stare into space. We all underestimated his hatred of Stella, even my dad. We all underestimated that. I was crushed. My dad was crushed. I wish that it would have been Jimmy, which is a horrible thing to say. But it's true. It was after that that Jimmy went all kinds of sideways. One evening, I got a call from my dad.
Hello?
And he was really upset. Yeah, I asked me if I was sitting down. Yeah, I'm sitting down. Don't tell me anybody else has died.
What happened?
He said, no, but what has happened is your brother went over and got into Stella's house and he raped her. In a million years, thought he would do anything like that to her or anybody else. She called my dad, who was at work, and apparently when Jimmy knocked at the door, she was startled, but she wasn't afraid. Like, she did not, otherwise she wouldn't have let him in. She had no idea that he was there to do her any harm.
Jimmy.
Can I come in?
Sure, yeah.
And then his look in his eyes changed, and Stella said he just got a whole cold look about him. And then he grabbed a hold of her, and Jimmy told her, if you tell anybody, I will come back and I will kill you. I'm sure she must have been scared out of her mind. I never anticipated that kind of violence from him. And with Stella, it was brutal. I was sick to my stomach. It's terrible. It's awful. She told us, I'm not going to the police because if he finds out, he'll come back here and you'll kill me. I tried so hard to get her to change her mind. She would have none of it. Well, after the incident happened, I came over to visit my dad, and Jimmy came in, and we were right in the middle of talking about it. We just asked him, is this true? What did you do? Jimmy, Stella says you raped her, so what, she's just making that crap up, dude? I guess. She hates me so much. Just tell us what happened.
Why would she lie?
He's always had it out for me.
Jimmy denied it.
I didn't do it.
There was nothing else to talk about. We never spoke about it again. He'll exert his extreme power over her. I think it was absolutely more satisfaction to him that he knew she had to walk around and live with that. And then I felt even worse, ashamed, in hindsight, looking back, that I didn't do anything about it. That was a really horrible thing. I acknowledge and I know that I didn't do the right thing there. And I think that helped him to continue to feel that he could get away with whatever he wanted to do. Nobody was going to do it. After the incident with Stella, we just tried to tiptoe around it. We didn't speak about Stella around him. We just let that whole part of our life be. I think that it was a little bit of fear and denial because of the fact that I had already lost one brother and I didn't want to lose this one. I was in such a way that I tried to overlook a lot of things because of the fact he was all I had left, but ramped up and he just got worse. One night, my family and I had gone to the drive-in. We came back from the movies and there was ambulances everywhere, fire trucks, police. I didn't know what had happened. Oh my gosh, I ran upstairs and my mom told me that Jimmy had went in and beat Grandma to a bloody pulp at the door, and she looked out the people and saw it was Jimmy. She thought, well, wonder what he wants. So she opened the door. My grandmother said he came in and started talking to her. She said he looked at me, and he looked at me like I wasn't even there. Like he was looking right through her.
Is there anyone here?
Yeah.
And she said, Jimmy, Jimmy,
Everything
are you okay? Jimmy. She said that a couple times to him, and he didn't respond.
okay?
And that's when she said he just came over and started strangling her. He didn't say anything to her. He didn't say a word. He just continued to beat her until she laid and pretended she was dead on the floor. And she said he finally left. And she was able to crawl to the phone and call 911. And the scene at my grandmother's was horrific. The whole kitchen was covered in blood. I was really upset, like shaken inside. It made me so upset. I didn't know what to think. I couldn't believe it. I could, and I couldn't. Or anything but really good to all of us. The police came and picked him up, and that's when they photographed his whole body. There weren't no blood on him, and there was no marks of a physical kind on him. So I guess at that time, you know, because she was so distraught, they thought she would lie about her grandson. He looks you in your eye, and he is so adamant about his innocence that you end up believing him because, I mean, even no matter how hard you would badger him about it, he would just laugh and discount it as you him. The trial for this was horrific in that they had this in the newspapers, the local newspapers, and they had my grandmother like up on the stand. One of the pictures they showed of her, you could tell she was old and frail. Eventually, my brother was acquitted of the charges of beating my grandmother and attempted to murder her. And they said there was not enough evidence to prove otherwise. They had reasonable doubt. So he was acquitted. I was pretty shocked when it came back with an acquittal. And therefore, he's back out. And because he didn't get in any trouble for doing that, I guess we took on the attitude when we're talking to Jimmy, we have to act like that was a big mistake and he really didn't do it. And that was part of what made me think for a moment, maybe he really didn't truly remember these things. Maybe he truly doesn't remember, and that's why he's so adamant that I didn't do it. I didn't do it. But that wasn't true. A call from him, from Jimmy, while he was in prison, and he was all excited when he called. And I said, "Why are you so excited? What's going on? Did you get good news? Are you gonna get out?" He said, "No, I met someone in here, a really cool person." I said, "Who is that?" He said, "Ted Bundy." At this point, I just wanted to cry. And I told him, "Ted Bundy, why are you even talking to him?" Oh my gosh. Continued laughing about it. He had met this horrible killer. And in my mind, I thought, what kind of stuff is he learning from him? He spoke to Ted Bundy at length about different things. One being that he should look at the want ads and look at the want ads in Oregon, which is where Ted Bundy said that he got a lot of his victims from. I think he definitely aspired to be like Ted Bundy. I think evil people have a way to hide that evilness that we don't see until they're ready to let it out. And then it's just awful for whoever they let it out on. He was evil through and through. So many people suffered because of him. one day when I came home to visit my dad, there were police cars everywhere, all over our street. I didn't know when. He said the neighbor, Alice Stock, had been raped and murdered. And my dad and I looked at each other. Oh my gosh. Immediately, we both suspected that Jimmy had something to do with that. Because of the fact he had broke into her house prior. It seemed really coincidental that he would get out of prison, and within just a matter of a few weeks, our neighbor was killed. Went back to Alice Stock's house to finish what he had attempted to do the first time he broke into her house. One day, I got a call from Jimmy. He told me, I've decided that I'm gonna change my name. Well, I can't get a fair shake with Adolph James Rhodey everywhere I go. People are gonna think that I'm guilty of something. And he told me Caesar Francesco Barone. I was like, what? What? Why would you pick that name? I just thought it sounded cool, he said. So he changed his name, but I figured maybe it's better because he won't be underneath the cloud of suspicion everywhere he goes. I knew he did things to my grandmother. I knew he did these things to my stepmother. But I was really hopeful that he was becoming a different person. He joined the Army. When Jimmy first joined, he joined as Caesar Francesco Barone, not Adolph James Rhodey. So they never knew of his name and his other records. Now I know the reason that he did it was so he could do more bad stuff and not get detected. My brother had a double life. He had another side that did horrible things. He was not telling me what he was doing with his spare time in Oregon. The facts are staring you in your face. One night I was at the house, getting ready to watch America's Most Wanted, and America's Most Wanted comes on, and in front of my very eyes is my brother on the screen. My heart almost stopped. They were searching for the murder weapon of a particular murder that he had done with a firearm. Never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought, here, my brother's gonna be on the screen. Was angry because of all the stuff I was beginning to see. It's all lies, all lies. They were searching for my brother for multiple murders that he was a suspect in between 1991 and 1993. Caesar killed at least 4 women in Portland, Oregon. He also sexually, and most of his victims were elderly women who he raped and then strangled. After he was captured, Jimmy called me from jail one afternoon and told me that he had been arrested. He laughed and said, I didn't do anything. Somebody's framing me for this stuff. I didn't really believe him, but that's what he told me. I just didn't have the strength to deal with it. I didn't have the strength to leave him. I just was neutral when I spoke to him. I didn't know enough about the murders at that time. I didn't really know a lot about the murders and the rapes to confront him with it. I acted like my normal big sister because I loved him, and I felt guilty for loving him. I felt guilty that somehow I should have cut him at the knees and just been happy to do it, but I wasn't, and I really grappled with that. I wanted to do the right thing. The law enforcement was interested in speaking to me because it was apparent that I didn't know a lot of these details. They came, and for about an hour, they went through all of the horrific things that he was accused of as a courtesy to me, because I was totally in the dark.
We know that all of this information is coming as a bit of a surprise.
They came with so much evidence. I was taken aback that all of this stuff had been occurring, and these were factual police reports with what he's doing, that he somehow, his mind separates itself and he's not aware of his actions. And they told me there's absolutely no truth to that at all, and they can show me. And they proceeded to do just that.
No, unfortunately.
I thought that he had gone to Oregon to start a new life with his new wife and son. But apparently he was in Oregon continuing to murder and rape women, all elderly women. I don't know why. Not able to fight back, maybe. Easy targets for him. But later on, I started realizing it was more than that. I was so sure in my mind it was something to do with our mom. I believed he had issues with my mom, and my mom leaving our life at such a young age for him. It's horrific to go back and think of all the things he did. It was very hard for me to think that he could be so cruel. And I had a fit of a doubt because there wasn't any. And at that point, I knew in my mind and in my heart that he was guilty. I had no choice but to acknowledge it and realize this is all true. And my first thought is I'm going to lose my last brother. I needed that at that time to help me to bridge that between how I thought my brother was and how he actually was. And all I had left in front of me was someone I did not know. It was horrible. I wish I would have known sooner. This is Martha Bryant. This is Margaret Schmidt. This is Shanty. This is Betty Williams, and this is Alice Stock, our old neighbor. Sorry he did this to you guys. For Alice, for all intents and purposes, he got away with her murder. That was the beginning of it. Right there at Alice Stock's house is where his killing began. When he was becoming this terrible monster that he became, the only thing they all have in common is they crossed the monster's path. As the sister of the man who took these women's lives, I will never forget their names. I will never forget their faces. In your lives, None of you deserved that. And it's very well possible and probable in my mind that he did do that to others that were just never caught, never found out about. Nobody really knew that my brother was a serial killer. Say out loud, he's a monster and he's a murderer. It feels really good to acknowledge that and put that out to the world. My brother was a bad man, bad man. He was someone I didn't even know. And I'm not gonna grieve for him anymore. I am, for once in my whole 68 years of existence, I can be at peace about my brother, knowing that I'm not a bad person because he isn't. I'm not a bad person because he's a murderer, not me.